Hey, what's up? Welcome in to the fifth chapter discussion on Detroit sports. I'm Dennis Fithian, joined by Brian Jelinek. We're ready to get things underway. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Coming off a really bad 53 playing some bad Twilight golf, but yeah, I'm here, man. I'm ready to go.
53 sounds all right to me.
No,
Well,
it was terrible.
you might wonder what we're talking about. You can start to think about it. You got training camps, some Tiger stuff going on, and there it is. You see the book right there. Look at that. Got Jelinek's face up there now. I like that. You can see Lions training camp. We're going to get to some college football on there. We got some baseball, and whether we want to gamble or tell the story, that coming up in the fifth chapter. That's a nice job you did on the graphics there. Good job, Jelinek.
You like the Photoshop move? I think it looks pretty good.
I did. If I really tried to get picky, if we had one like a not as big as our, but like just a little teeny little bit Brian Chapman, maybe we could find and put his head somewhere on there.
Yeah, you know what? Next week when I mess with it more, I'm going to make sure to put Chapman's always going to be part of the show. Doesn't matter where he is or if he's on the show or not on the show. He's always going to have a picture of himself up there.
Yeah, actually, if you look towards the bottom, we go to the close up here. And you can't see it, but if we go to the too wide and you have our graphic in the back, his head is still on that particular graphic because I can see his teeth.
He's always going to be part of the show, Dennis. Can never leave our man behind.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to some Lions here right out of the gate. We got training camp. I don't know. I think it's day 9, and You know what? I saw your boy out of Wayne State and also Birmingham Groves Pittman. I know people have been talking about him. You look at the linebacking core unit. You look at the wide receivers. Those guys are getting some kind of run here. But you know what? What it really says is there's a lot of opportunity in those two position groups. So somebody that you just get names that you throw around, and if you're interested in the Lions and in football, it's just fun to hear some names and what to look for. A week from tomorrow is going to be the first preseason game. So you say, oh, I heard those guys in the fifth chapter talking about it, but Pittman's definitely been one of those names, and I've been hearing a lot of wide receivers names.
Yeah, I have too, and the wide receiver position is going to be the most interesting position throughout the whole year. I don't have high expectations for him, but it's going to be interesting to watch because I barely know who any of these guys are to begin with. So it's just going to be basically just a rotary of players throughout the whole year.
Yeah, I was listening to a Lions podcast, and the broadcaster was like, "Look for Vic Bolden." He had heard his name, so I was like, Vic Bolden."
Who?
He was just and that's it. So I looked him up. He played as a returner. He's been in the league for 3 years. Has done some returning, and I looked. He was only 5'8". And then I looked at. I was looking at some of like the national guys came in. This Albert Breer came in, and he said, "Look at." Khalif Raymond as a wide receiver. He said he'd been getting a lot of buzz, and then I seen his name pop up again, and one of the beat writers had put either a tweet or had a story about it. And so I looked Khalif Raymond up saying, oh, maybe this is the guy more than Bolden, and he's 5'8" too. He's been in the league for 5 years. Actually, has played a lot of games in over the 5 years at wide receiver, most recently with the Titans. But both of those guys in the slot, return guys, obviously diminutive guys that you look at, but two names there, guys that you're not, I don't think, jumping out of your seat like, hey, I'm going to draft this guy in my fantasy league or something like that. Not right now, but it does speak to the opportunity here of, if I told you, because coming in, you got Tyrell Williams, who was with the Raiders and a long time with the Chargers, and we know Brashard Perriman.
Yep.
Like those are the two guys right there. But if I told you that the rookie, the kid out of USC, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was a 4th round draft pick for the Lions, and then Quentin Cephas, who was a later round pick last year. If I told you those were the two guys that lined up on the opening weekend against San Francisco, I don't think you would think I was crazy.
No, I mean, looking at it right now and trying to follow some of the players to a training camp, no, you're not crazy at all. I think last year at this time, oh yeah, absolutely, you'd be insane for saying something like that. But right now, absolutely not. Just, I don't know, the biggest thing for me is just going to be the defense. Like, there's no way they can be as bad as they were last year, right? Like, the ceilings, it's only going to go up. So, I mean, the defense, Jared Goff and Brashad Perryman really and the wide receiver core, what we're going to be looking at all year long.
Yeah, and the other thing, you got a little bit of Dan Campbell. I saw that what's his name, Frank Caliendo, who's great with impersonations. John Gruden.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably name another 5 that he's really good at. He took a stab, at Dan Campbell, and I watched it, but he basically had a nice Lions logo on the back, but he went with the I got a coffee with a double shot in here, and I'm gonna eat somebody's kneecaps. Somebody sound like Dan Campbell. When you find out, somebody told me today that drink, the coffee that Dan Campbell has talked about with 1 coffee and 2 espressos, and they're a double shot, and then he does 2 of those for the morning. That's the same as a pound and 10 Red Bulls.
Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with coffee, and Dan Campbell's a certified psychopath for drinking something like that. A quick coffee story was about 5 years ago. I got up to watch the Open really early. It's like watch the opening tee times, and pounded like 4 cups of coffee without eating anything. And after that, I took like a 3, 4, 5 year break without drinking coffee. I just slowly started getting myself back in there. So Dan Campbell drinking 2 of those tall boys a day with 4 shots total of espresso in him is just insane. Serial killer. That's what he is.
Yeah, I have a pretty high tolerance for caffeine. Like there was a time when I would put on a pot of coffee and I'd sit around and I could just drink it all day. Like, didn't matter. Let's go. Just keep drinking it. But then if there comes a point, you're like, all right, stop drinking coffee. But I was going to go to the energy drinks like a couple of years ago. I think I was at the grocery store and I just threw some in. It was a lemon looking energy drink with a guy with an old medieval helmet or something. And it stayed in the cupboard for a long time. And I put them in the fridge and I drank one and I thought, wow, this tastes good. And I was kind of like, woo, running around. And my wife said, don't get those anymore. Then she started reading. She's like, this has got, not only did it have the caffeine, it had a ton of sugar in it as well. So, but man, I was drinking that thing and it definitely, it had me flying. Yeah. And I do know coffee, man. If I just sit there, I've done shows before where, I like to have either water or tea, sometimes coffee, but you're doing a 4-hour show, you get into hour 3 and you're just drinking water. And then, you drink a little coffee and you're sitting there. Next thing you know, you notice that you're just like, bop, 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 kind of running around there.
Starting to talk a little more. Yeah, no, I understand that completely. So let's see.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Reed. There's Keith, jumping in. It's good to see Keith on the chat.
Yeah, Keith goes on to say, it doesn't make any sense that they didn't get better receivers, and I wanted them to draft Peoples-Jones over Cephas. Dumb pick passing on Jones, who went around after Cephas. I hate the Lions. I mean, you can always come back a year later and say stuff like that, like, why didn't we draft this guy? Why didn't we draft that guy? But it happens. Football is back. That's all that matters. But, I mean, who knows? Quintez Cephas probably won't be that great at the end of the day, but I'm never going to fault somebody for passing on somebody like that, never knowing what's going to happen.
Well, you know what? I think that, the jury's still out. Like, I'm not necessarily ready to say that Donovan Peoples-Jones is a better wide receiver than Quinton Cephas. I mean, Cephas he's not a speed burner, but, there was a couple games where Stafford zeroed in on him, and he showed some promise. And I know DPJ, when OBJ went down, which is weird to say, both of their initials like that really fast, but it's not like Donovan Peoples-Jones was out there and you thought this guy's going to be a future star or something like that. I didn't.
Yeah, one other thing that I've read a lot about that I saw today on MLive and stuff like that, Jared Goff throughout training camp and through the first couple days of pads, MLive stated that he likes to keep a little more safe, a little more conservative, throwing balls and all that. But then Tim Boyle came out and said, first of all, like, who the hell is Tim Boyle? I totally forgot he was on the team. But Tim Boyle's
a backup quarterback.
Yeah, right? Backup quarterback who came from Green Bay. But he said they want to test secondaries of other teams like that. And I don't see the Lions being a huge vertical attack like that. I just don't see that in our offense.
I thought something that I heard last night raised my eyebrows a little bit. I was listening to Peter King, who he does his Monday morning quarterback. I think a lot of people are familiar with his work there. Mm-hmm. Some people call it a must read. He also does a podcast, and he takes like 6 months off, and he had his debut for the 2021 season. He talked to David Carr of the Raiders. He talked to Jimmy G from the 49ers, and he talked to Stafford from the Rams. But before he got to Stafford, he said, I'll paraphrase it a little bit. I didn't write it exactly down, but and it's probably going to make, if it already hasn't made the rounds here in Detroit, it was a real backhanded, wasn't a compliment. It was a shot at Jared Goff. He said, talking to Stafford, he said he wrote it in his column. I didn't see it. I didn't read the column this week, but he said that it's his impression that Sean McVay, when he had Jared Goff, it was like teacher and pupil. And now that he has Matt Stafford, he can really talk football with him. Like he could really get down to the X's and O's, and whatever the guy that was Russell Crowe played in A Beautiful Mind. I guess that was a real story or something about the guy that.
Yeah.
And he related Sean McVay as the guy in The Beautiful Mind. And he's saying now that he can talk ball on the same level with Matthew Stafford, which is of course a compliment for Stafford, but it's really, you might as well just say Jared Goff's a big dummy.
I know.
Was what that was saying to me.
I think that's just a ludicrous comment from Sean McVay saying something like that. I mean,
well, it was Peter King, but you know what? He's in Rams camp and he's talking. So, Peter King's he's not just throwing things out there like this is, and he said it was his impression. Well, the translation for that is that he's in Rams camp and that's what somebody told him. So you're close. And it might have been Sean McVay.
That's Peter King saying he can talk football properly with Stafford and not Jared Goff.
Peter King said his impressions were that Goff was like pupil with McVay, but Stafford's more of like, hey, he can look him in the eye and talk like advanced football.
Oh, see, I think that's a ludicrous comment in every way, shape, or form. That dig is just not necessary to Jared Goff at all.
Well, a lot of people want to know why Jared Goff actually was out of Cali. People, pointing to the drama with McVay's girlfriend, and Goff's girlfriend, something like that. I don't know exactly how that went down. I know in a football realm that if you look at the analytics, that Goff couldn't throw the football down the field with a very high percentage. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Stafford's numbers, they were really good at being able to push the ball down the field. And for a lot of people, that was analyzing it and looking at the tail of the tape. That was the thing. The Rams, after giving them the gigantic extension, said, "Oh, we're out. We're out on him. Let's bail and see if we can get an upgrade." But maybe there were some other things there. Maybe it was the girlfriend, and maybe, as Peter King suggests, that Stafford just got a higher IQ for football. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's just so weird. I just hate how right now everyone's just so on the Matthew Stafford train, so excited for him to perform well in LA because he's on a real team now. It's just people got to pump the brakes and let the guy come back down to earth. He's not that amazing of a football player. He's a very good quarterback. He's not in that elite category. So
no, he's not in the elite category, but let's be honest. The Rams are looked at as being one of the Super Bowl favorites here.
Yeah.
And Stafford is going to be a nice story. He had to toil for 12 years in Detroit, and now he's got a real shot. Of course, he lost his lead running back for the year, and he's already busted up his thumb, so it isn't really a good start. And, nothing against it. I guess it is a little bit against Stafford and the Rams because I want them to tank and only win 6 games or something. I'm not hoping that Stafford, hurts his hand or anything, and I'm not pulling for injuries like the one that happened with their running back, but because the Lions draft compensation is directly tied to how the Rams do, I want the Rams to finish last in the NFC West. Stranger things have happened there. And all of this, like Stafford's so great. Let's find out. Let's get ready. We're getting ready to find out about that.
How do you feel about this comment from Keith right here saying the Lions have historically passed on hometown Michigan State players for some other player, which always turns out to be the wrong move almost always? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think there was some truth to that back in the day when Ron Hughes was part of the Lions scouting staff because Schembechler, Moeller, and Lloyd Carr, they didn't let any teams come in. They were like super secretive about it. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a good relationship with the Lions. So I do think that was a situation. But, the Lions picked Charles Rogers. Mm-hmm. What was the number 2 pick in the draft? So they have made some high selections for Michigan State. They took Jeff Backus. He was a first-round pick. And so I don't think that there's truth in that. There was one time with Michigan because of how Michigan was welcoming or not welcoming in the Lions in, but I don't think they've shied away necessarily from Michigan State, or they took Drew Stanton in the freaking second round or something, didn't they?
I know. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot
They
of
took
stuff.
Jake Rudock here recently too. They've taken a lot of Michigan State players. No truth to that.
I'm totally with you on that. At least in my lifetime, there's no truth to that comment. But
yeah, the Ron Hughes thing is real. I mean, that was a real thing, but that's not happening anymore. And I think that's Carr hasn't been a coach since 2007, and I think Hughes left the Lions a little bit before that to go to Pittsburgh. So there you go. All right, you ready to turn the page?
Yeah, let's get to the second chapter, and that's going to go into NFC North preview. Who we watching, and how do you think the Lions are going to finish after Week 18 now, no longer Week 17, Fifth? What do you think?
What's the question? How do I think the NFC North is going to stack up?
Yeah, how do you think the NFC North is going to stack up in 2021?
Yeah, well, I got a surprise. I've been working a little bit on thinking about who's coming in who. My dog's at the door, needs to come in. Maybe you need to take it away, and I need to let my dog in here for a second. So,
all right, sounds good. All right, boys, here we are. I don't know. I don't really have high expectations for the Lions at all this year. With Aaron Rodgers being back in Green Bay is easily going to win the division with no problem whatsoever. The biggest thing I'm looking at is not the Lions, not the COVID issues for the Vikings, but how long Andy Dalton's going to be QB1 in Chicago. As of right now, from what the Bears and Matt Nagy have said, if the season started right now, Andy Dalton is QB1. How long do you think Dalton will stay the starting quarterback, excuse me, in Chicago?
I don't even believe him necessarily about Week 1 or Week 2. I think that Fields will be in there sooner rather than later, and that's my big surprise here. I have the Bears supplanting the Packers atop of the NFC North. I'm going to take Chicago. I think they're going to win 12 games, and I think with the defense that they have, and I think with Justin Fields taking over game 2, game 3, what are the Lions? I think are there Week 4. Certainly by the time that the Lions get there, I like the Bears. This is a team that made the playoffs last year. They had freaking the Mitch Trubisky as their QB, and they still have Nick Foles on the roster there. You know what? Dalton, he came in for the Cowboys last year and looked terrible. So they must be trading Foles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they're talking about Andy Dalton is the leader, I'm not buying any of that. I don't think that's all coach speak. That's all training camp nonsense. I think, you're 8 days into training camp, maybe 3-4 days into pads. You don't anoint anybody. You let them earn it and all that. But let's see a couple preseason games play out. I'll take Fields actually to start Week 1 for the Bears, and I'd like the Bears to win the NFC North. And I like them to win it over the Packers. I think the Packers, obviously they got the talent and everything, but I think the Aaron Rodgers fiasco in the offseason where he's like, yeah, my wide receivers all suck, and I hate Green Bay and every inch of it. I'm out of here. These guys can suck it. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay, I'm coming back, and let's go out there and win. I think at the first sign of trouble there, these guys might be jumping ship, and it's not all harmony there. And I think that's going to hurt the Packers. I still think they'll make the playoffs, and I think that they'll be better than the Lions and the Vikings. But I have the Vikings third. The Vikings defense sucked last year, and I know they had a lot of injuries, but I can't get over the game when I was sitting there watching it by myself, and it's probably not the best of reasons to, be down on the Vikings, but I'm playing my one of my good friends in fantasy football, and he's got Alvin Kamara, and I'm sitting back, and it's the Saints and Vikings, and I don't know if it was like a Saturday afternoon game. It was something weird, like it was the only game on TV and everything. And I'm like, okay, I'm settling in. I'm going to watch this. And, the Vikings defense is terrible. So I'm thinking, just hold Kamara to like 100 yards and a touchdown, maybe 2. But even that, you're not thinking about giving up 2 touchdowns. Dude's got like 4 or 5 touchdowns, the first 5 times he touches the ball. I think he ended up with 6 touchdowns and like 7,000 yards. That part, Mike Zimmer, I like as a defensive coordinator, but, he can get his guys back and talk about exotic blitzes and everything else. But I'm down on the Vikings and their defense. I like their offense, skilled players. I mean, I like Thielen. I like Justin Jefferson. I like Dalvin Cook. But, if you look at the record of Kirk Cousins, it's absolutely 500.
Yeah.
I think Kellen Mond will take over at some point. So I had the Vikings finishing third in the division. It's a potent offense there. I'd like to take the Lions over them, but the Lions just don't have any explosive playmakers. I mean, Hawkinson's going to lead them in receptions, targets, touchdowns, receiving yards. Lions have DeAndre Swift, who's a nice player, but when you start talking about, just look at the Vikings. They got Delvin Cook. You're not ready to say that DeAndre Swift's better than Delvin Cook right now. And, Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff, that's kind of a wash. But, man, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Irv Smith Jr. at tight end, man, those are weapons. And the Lions just don't have any of those right now. So you can't pick the Lions, any better than fourth. And the thing is, this year about the Lions, we know that. Every other year of my life, people have talked about, the NFL, anything can happen. And Lion fans, they start, whether it's cornbread or butter or Kool-Aid or whatever you want to say, August is always the time to, feel great about the team. And let's say, why not us? The Lions came in this year with the new regime. Brad Holmes said, I don't like the idea of he called it retooling. And Dan Campbell mentioned that it was going to be a process and they were playing the long game. These are all code phrases and code words for, we're not going to win a lot of games this year and don't expect us to. They didn't overpay for Kenny Galladay. That was a big indication that this team is going that direction. You know what, Jelinek, I thought is something fan-wise that I've just noticed over the last couple of weeks or so. They understand about this is a developmental year. Hope some guys like Okuda get better in his second year. A guy that was a number 3 overall pick. You hope, Penei Sewell, you look out there at right tackle. You see that maybe he's going to be a pillar for the next decade. It's something we already talked about, DeAndre Swift.
Mm-hmm.
Find out about Jared Goff. I mean, all those kind of things. The record really doesn't matter. No. And I think Lion fans get that. But I think by watching the Pistons go through what they did this year, because we've talked about tanking for really 5, 6, 7 years here in Detroit. Hey, this is what you need to do. You're dumb if you don't think, tanking is good. We've been told, everybody, and you get that. Some people telling you got to keep losing.
Yeah.
And people just get sick of, rooting against all of our teams nonstop. And we're just getting beat down. But then the Pistons this year,
they tanked perfectly.
Well, they did. And then they got the number 1 pick. And I think a lot of Lions fans saw that and was like, hey, look at how things have worked out. The Pistons, man, they're smelling like roses right now. Things are awesome. We could sit around for hours talking about how things are looking up for the Detroit Pistons. And the one thing about the NFL, you don't have to rely on luck and any ping pong balls and everything. You can go out there and lose.
Yep.
15 games. You can go 2-15. And Lion fans got to keep that enthusiasm up about Dan Campbell and the process and everything, and just embrace having that really high pick. Could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally lockstepping with you. I think this is the first time, especially in my lifetime, where people have dialed it back and saying, you know what, this is not our year. We're just going to rebuild. We're going to let these guys do their thing, and here we are. I am also in lockstep with you, thinking the Vikings and Lions are going to finish 3rd and 4th, respectively, in the division. However, I think that Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams? I'm forgetting his name at wide receiver. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, right, at running back. Do I have that right? They're not losing. They're easily winning the NFC North, no problem. I don't see the Bears winning. I see the Bears finishing 2nd, getting into the wild card, stuff like that, but they are not going to win the division. Absolutely not. Give me the pack all day long.
All right. Good luck with that. You just go with the favorites. Paul likes the Lions to finish 4-12-1. I like mixing in the tie there. Let's look a little bit. Keith's got a few different things to say here. And let's start with them. Lions have historically passed. We read that one. He's not saying they passed 100%. He was just giving some examples there. And he said, you guys need to bring me on the show. I can talk and give you some knowledge, especially Brian, as he's so young and doesn't know anything.
Ouch. Come on, Keith. Yeah. I know I'm a millennial. I know I'm young, but come on, man. You gotta give me a little bit more credit with that. I've never really seen an issue with the Lions not drafting Michigan State players. The Lions are going to try to draft the best players they possibly can, but unfortunately, some of those players, A, have not been very good, and B, I don't know, just don't draft. We don't need to draft Michigan State players every year.
Yeah, attention, people that are watching through or listening to the podcast anyway through. If you do want to come on the show, you can get at me through Twitter. My DMs are open. You just jump in there. But one thing, you got to be nice to the host. So taking shots at Jellick's not the way to get in there.
Keith, you're not helping yourself out, man. And on top of that, I mean, yeah, just come on. You got to give me a little more credit, even though I'm 25 years old. I vaguely know what I'm talking about when it comes to the history of the Lions. I mean, I've only really become a fan since Stafford and Megatron have been here, but you got to give me a little bit of credit here, man.
Let's move it through to like Calvin said this weekend when the Lions go to shake his hand, he's just going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it moving here too. And Beth, Lions 4 to 5 games. That's it. But you know what, Beth? The over and under in Vegas, I think, is 5. Maybe it's moved to 5.5, but 5. So she's going with the under.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 5 or like she's saying 4 or 5, so that would be the under. I think 5 or 6. That would be the over. But as we look at the over and unders, if I just think it's one away, that's not going to be a team that I'm going to bet on. I'm not going to bet on the Lions to go over 5 games, especially since I think it would be best for them just to win 2 games this year. And it could happen. It could go under. I don't like just being one away from the number. When I look through, this is how I do it. And I have some of an idea of what the numbers might be, but I'll go through the schedule and I'll say I think they're going to win this many games. Like I'm going to go under on the Pack this year. They're probably like 11. I'm going under. I think the controversy, there's something there with Rodgers and how there can be a team mutiny pretty quick. So I'm going to go under on the Pack. I already went over on the Steelers and the Titans. And you know what? The Titan Super Bowl bet that I made, plus whatever it was, 8,000, looks a lot better now that the Colts have lost the best guard in the league in Quentin Nelson and lost Carson Wentz at quarterback. It's looking a lot better for the Titans right now.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Carson Wentz is made of paper mache. I'm getting to the point now where I feel bad for the dude, but I think Ryan Tannehill is an absolute fraud. I mean, their running game is great. They got Julio, they got A.J. Brown and all that, but Tannehill's a fraud. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. He just got a really team-friendly deal because of, and blanking on his name already, their running back. That's the only reason why he got
King
the deal.
Henry?
King Henry, thank you. Yes. Derrick Henry is the only reason why Ryan Tannehill got that contract. Tannehill's not a good quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the opposite side of you on that one. I think Ryan Tannehill, if you look at him and the numbers, like he didn't have a good cast and didn't play well in Miami, but he's been fantastic in Tennessee. And all of the numbers, you want to credit the defense, you want to credit the running game, you want to credit the wide receivers around him. All of that's good, but you know what? He's better than a lot of quarterbacks. You know what? You can make a case he's better than Matt Stafford.
Yeah, you can make that case. I mean, they're both 2 very average quarterbacks. I think if you throw any quarterback in that situation that they have in Tennessee with Derrick Henry, King Henry, whatever you want to call them, they're going to be outstanding because they hand the ball off 3/4 of the game. So absolutely any you and I would be a good quarterback on the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I think that's just off a little bit. I don't think Tannehill has been average. He has been above average in Tennessee, and Matt Stafford has been. He was average a couple of years and below average a couple of years in Detroit, but he was also above average. And, I would put him as an above average quarterback, especially in the situation that he is in LA right now. So calling him just an average quarterback, I think is short selling him. But hey, that's me. All right, let's move on.
Let's move to the 3rd chapter. All right.
And with this, we get to college football. And Michigan State, if you look at the calendar, a month from tomorrow, they will be in Evanston, Illinois, taking on Northwestern.
A place that State always has a problem at.
They have a tough time with Northwestern. Northwestern's been a pretty good team under Pat Fitzgerald. And also, I love the Labor Day weekend, and the Spartans traditionally play on a Friday. So they've got that game going on. And then Michigan tomorrow, they start practice. And then a month from Saturday, which will then be September the 4th, they will host Western Michigan. So the question is, how are you feeling about these two teams heading into the 2021 season?
I'm obviously a Michigan State slap, and I honestly feel like Mel Tucker can get the Spartans to be a bowl contender. It may be some crappy bowl, but they'll get into a bowl game this year. And to keep it short, I honestly think that Michigan's going to be very 500, very average at best. I have no idea what's going to happen at quarterback. Is it going to be Cade McNamara? Is it going to be, was it J.J. McCarthy is the other quarterback there? I have no idea what's going to happen there. Their defense, yeah, they have a new coordinator, but their defense was atrociously bad last year. I have higher hopes on the Spartans actually playing well, playing 500 ball and getting into a bowl game.
Yeah, Cade McNamara's been named the starter. He's likely going to be the guy on September 4th for Michigan. And I think the Wolverines are going to go 8-4. I had them at 7-5 originally, and then they moved the Indiana game from at Indiana to home, and then they moved the Michigan State game to the Big House to East Lansing, and I switched my pick around, and I'm 8-4. I think they're going to lose to Wisconsin, and then I think they're going to lose their last 3 games, which are in Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. Meanwhile, Michigan State, if you go through the schedule, Mel Tucker did a nice job last year by beating Michigan. That was huge for the program and making people like you for sure. So he's had a good off season here to go through some things. I think Peyton Thorne, Kenneth Walker, those are a good start. At quarterback and running back, I think there's some possibility there. I don't like the schedule. Like, just go through it, man. You got that starting at Northwestern. Also having to go, what are those non-conference games? Miami? You think they're going to go down to the U? Maybe they can win that game.
They're not going to win at the U. They're not going to win there.
They got a tough non-conference schedule. You just start going through there, and you look and you say, okay, yeah, like you called yourself a Michigan State slap, and that's all good. It's just, at Northwestern, at the U, those games right there, there's just a lot, that I got them at 5-7. But I think a goal, you only have to get to 6 wins to be bowl eligible. So what you talked about, a crappy bowl.
Yeah,
I think that could be in the cards.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, Michigan State brought in a kid from, is it Texas Tech or something like that, Anthony Russo. So there may be a little bit of a quarterback battle in East Lansing. Who knows? I think Peyton Thorne will eventually get the job, but we'll see there. But I think absolutely 5-7 for the Wolverines, and the Spartans, and 7-5 or 8-4 for the Wolverines. I don't trust that defense of Michigan has right now. I really don't trust that.
All right, this is going to be a quicker show. I got some things going on here, so let's get to this 4th and 5th chapter here. So we turn the page and get to the Tigers, and that gets us to the chase for 500 for Miguel Cabrera, who was unable to connect for the hometown fans. He did get 1 at the start of the series to get to 498, but now the Tigers head out for 6 games here. What's your thought on the chase for 500 for Miguel Cabrera?
I owe Miggy a huge apology from Tuesday night. Our guy Jeff Rieger of the Ticket tweeted out that in his first 37 games, Miggy was hitting abysmal 184 with a terrible OPS, only 4 bombs and 17 RBIs. However, in his last 47, he's been hitting 308 with the RBIs are still not much better, 32 RBIs, 7 bombs, and an 824 OPS. So, Miguel Cabrera, I am very sorry. You have been a serviceable player over the past 50 games. It's a huge bummer that he didn't hit the home run in Detroit, but he's going to get to 500 bombs within, I want to say, by next Sunday. I think that's what's going to happen. Give him a week.
Well,
he'll get there.
It would have been nice if he had been able to do it on this homestand against Boston. Everybody's, locked in on it and everything else. A lot of people going to the ballpark, yesterday and today, hoping to be one of those lucky fans that would be able to catch the ball or whatever. But, they got a 6-game road trip here. If I'm AJ Hinch, you talk to Miguel, say, hey, why not sit out a game or 2, freshen up for the homestand? Maybe he'll hit 1 on the road here and, then they come home for 6 games. That would be nice. He could do it at home. Now, at this point, you don't want it to get to something where And that's the thing, like, yeah, it's nice, but go ahead and finish it up on the road, whatever. Just get it done, because you don't want him to not get it on the road stand, not get it on the home stand. And then we're sitting around and you're like, how many more games do we got to wait for Miguel Cabrera to do this? He just needs to get it done and kind of get it done in a timely fashion here. So, people can be excited about it. Every time he hits a home run, it's really cool. And actually, even when he gets a single, he's, I don't think he's
itching close to 3,000.
Well, and I don't think he's going to get to 3,000 this year, a bunch of multiple hit games. I guess it's possible, but I don't think that's going to happen. But when you see him just start clicking up the list here, he's like, oh, hey, Frank Robinson, he passed. And it's, it's just history every time out there. And I think people understand, Miguel Cabrera, we are going to look forward to 500. We'll look forward to 3,000. And then can he be an asset for the team next year? If I had to make the guess, like, I don't want to sit here and say, you know what, he'll get 3,000, and then a month into the season, he'll go into a prolonged slump, and the Tigers will have to eat, the remaining year next year, and then the following year as well. No, I hope that he could stay on and finish out the contract with the Tigers and be somebody like next year. The Tigers, if they go out, Chris Ilitch said they're going to spend. If they go get Carlos Correa and they sign Jonathan Scope, and the Tigers should be a competitive team in the rotation that they have and what we've seen from the bullpen. We could legitimately, if they get Carlos Correa and he's out there at short, we could talk about this team being, competitive for the playoffs next year. Anything beyond that, Miguel Cabrera pitching in, having actually full ballpark and, bringing along the young kids, being a DH for the final 2 years, probably not, but maybe.
I have an issue paying a DH $35 million a year. I know David Ortiz has done stuff like that, but he never made close to 35 mil. If Cabrera's going to be serviceable, I need him hitting at least 260, 270 with 25 and 75 RBIs every year to make that serviceable.
Just look at it. Well, I mean, nobody likes, paying a guy that's not pulling his weight in money, but this is it. No. When you give a guy a 13-year, contract over here, it's for what he did at the start, and at the end, it could get ugly, like it did with Victor Martinez. I mean, we've seen it with the Angels and what went on with Pujols. I mean, they had to, cut him, and he was able to bounce back. It's not being mean. I think there's a 25% chance that that he would stay with the Tigers for the entire year last year. I don't know if people are on the over and under of that, but my hope is that he stays for 2 more years and is able to fulfill the contract and is with the team as they're competitive and hopefully make the playoffs. But I don't know. That doesn't seem like a very optimistic outlook, saying that I think he's got a 75% chance of, being bought out at some point next year.
Yeah, to bring it a little bit more into this series that we just won against the Red Sox, I mean, there was some growing pains with Casey Mize pitching yesterday, but overall, like, Mize had his first, I like seeing that. Is that 84 World Series baseball?
That's it. I'm hoping to, one day have another one.
I don't know. Mize had his growing pains. I can't really hate the kid for what happened yesterday. Tarek Skubal pitched well today. I can't complain with what I'm seeing from the Tigers right now. Yeah, like watching other dudes pitch or seeing Victor Reyes or something on that hit, but overall, the Tigers have been fun to watch over the past few months, and I've definitely watched the majority of the games, even though I watched a lot of them when the Tigers were sucking in April. So,
I think anytime Skubal, Manning, Mize are out there on the mound, I think, it represents the future. You start thinking about Boyd and Turnbull coming back next year. There's 5 starters right there. What Fulmer's been doing in the bullpen, and Akil Baddoo, you start thinking about him, and Eric Haas maybe being an answer next year, maybe over the next couple of years. We'll see on that. He's somebody to watch over the last 2 months to see if he's able to keep that up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, all eyes are on Miggy right now. All right, let's get to the fifth chapter.
All right, Dennis, you want me to lead it off, or you want to lead it off for the fifth chapter?
I want you to go ahead.
All right, so as everyone knows, I'm the resident golf guy on the show. When Chapman was here, he claimed he could hit 300 yards, whatever. But I am the resident golf guy on the show. And I played Twilight a couple nights ago. Twilight's where you tee off at like 6 o'clock, play 9, 10, 11 holes, and call it a night. We were gambling, having a great time, and I had probably one of the worst rounds of my life. not even a 53. I think I lied at the beginning of the show. It was like a 57. It was horrible. I was like, after a point, I wasn't having any fun. It was the worst sport ever. Contemplated taking a sabbatical from playing golf. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm just completely lost in my game right now. It's not a good time. So if anybody has any suggestions, please hit us up in the comments and let me know, because my golf game is atrocious right now.
Was it bad everywhere? Are you bad off the tee? You bad with your irons? Bad in the short game? Bad putting? Or
surprisingly, off the tee for the first 3 holes was not bad. I hit 4 of my first 5 fairways, which is unheard of. Driving is the worst part of my game, and nothing was working. Usually my short game's not bad. Horrible. I didn't hit a single green in regulation. I had 1 par putt the whole time, and yeah, it was just awful in every way. So, and I missed the par putt. So just the game was all around just terrible.
Yeah, it's a real frustrating game. I know that.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I only hit wedges about 75, 85 yards. That's the extent, but I do it a lot. And over the pandemic, I went from being like a 350 hitter, which is pretty good for baseball, but not really good if you're talking about connecting on a good iron, just 3 or 4 times out of 10, because the other 6 are, being sprayed all over the place. But I'm up to, I would say, an 800 hitter now, man. I can really put a nice swing on it and really get it flying up there, land it right where I want. But you know what? Those 2, I can get cocky, and then boom, man, worm burner, a throw on line drive over there. And it's, you can't hit that perfect shot all the time, which sucks.
Well, my problem was on the par 4s where my drives were fine. I was hitting the fairway. I was happy. And my approach shots into the green, I just sculled every iron or every wedge. And Mark Newman just says, sell your equipment. I've thought about it. I thought about leaving my clubs at the course, saying, please take. I won't even sell them. They can just have them. But anyway, I just scolded every wedge over the green. So I was coming back for my par or bogey chips just to get back on the green. It was terrible. I wasn't having any fun.
Here's Keith taking a shot at you. That's all right. And speaking of the devil.
Oh.
Big Bryant, you can still see his logo down there. You see his teeth smiling through over there. He said he hit one 300 yards today. Do you believe him?
No, I don't. I don't believe him at all.
How about we get some video, Chapman, of you hitting one 300 yards?
I will personally pay for Chapman's round of golf or the driving range to watch him hit the ball 300 yards.
Yeah, my major wager is at the driving range with a bucket of balls, I don't think that Chapman can hit it over 304 yards.
I'll put $10 down on that. Absolutely. No chance he can do it.
All right. For me, I go to story time. Last week, I met up with a friend of mine who I haven't seen in 2 years, pandemic, whatever. He's like, hey, let's meet. I did. And when I'm leaving, he's like, hey, I got a bunch of magazines for you. So I'm like, all right. I took them. So they're a bunch of, I'm a collector. As you see, remember I had the Jordan Cup that I got, last week. I don't know what the heck I'm doing with it. It's, 25 years old and everything else. I still have it here. So he gave me all these magazines, and I went through them, and they're, 20-year-old athlons, pro football weeklies and stuff, some of them black and white. Yeah, it was interesting for about, I got a good 20 minutes of read out of it. But I pulled 3 of the magazines out here just so I could show them here on Storytime. And this is a mid-season report from back, I would have to say this is close to 20 years ago. And it says the young guns of the NFL, the best crop of quarterbacks in 20 years. And the quarterbacks that they name, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, outstanding, seasons, Michael Vick. Then they put David Carr, who ended up not working out. And the cover boy for this Sports Illustrated, none other than your quarterback from back in the day. There he is, Joey Harrington. Read it and weep. But there he is, Joey Harrington making the front. The other one I took was a cowboy one but then here's one that reminded me of a great time for the Tigers. I just had to, they're the Bash brothers and the promise that they had. I remember, Victor Martinez got hurt. Mm-hmm. And then the Tigers went out there, and you credit Mike Ilitch, man. He was like, oh, man, the season's over and everything else. And they're like, hey, let's go get Prince Fielder. what about Cabrera? Everybody's like, no, Miguel Cabrera, he can't play third base, okay? But you know what? They went out there and they signed Prince Fielder, gave him all that money, and then it was pretty awesome. They went, of course, to the World Series and everything else, but then Prince Fielder, it was the famous quote that I'm going to see if I can kind of remember it. It was actually your boy Rieger who pulled that quote from him. It's like, do you care that you lost the game or something? He's like, I just want to go home and see my kids. I don't care. Something like that. And everybody soured on him after that. He was out after that. However he put it.
That 2013 Tigers team in my lifetime has been the best baseball team I've ever seen. And I can't believe they didn't beat the Sox, and they would have easily beaten the Cardinals without a doubt in the World Series. I can't believe they lost.
So can you hit a drive 300 yards?
I have hit a ball. My top driving distance is 292. I did it this year. That's the best I've ever done.
I have played golf once in 3 years where I've hit a driver, but 4 years ago, I used to, at home, I had, especially when they cut the grass in this field, I would hit my driver and go, look for the golf balls over there. So I'm just out there. Sometimes, one time I connected at one that was just like monster shot. Everything was perfect. And it just went, and I'm thinking, man, that's got to be 300 yards. And I didn't measure it off or anything. But then I watch a lot of these videos people put, whatever it is, on Instagram or TikTok or whatever else. And there are all kinds of people, and they're at these, whether it's a Top Golf or something, and they shoot them into the night. And it looks like, and I'm like, wow, man, those are all looking like they're 300 yards as well. I don't know if it's deceiving because of the camera or what. I'm thinking, man, a lot of people can really belt the ball. And maybe Chapman, it's not like he's got some forearms on him or something. I don't know what kind of, I've never seen his swing. But you know what? Maybe he just sits out there and just swings from his heels like a baseball bat, and once in a while he connects.
I think Brian Chapman does the famous foot kick, like the foot wedge, kicks it out a little bit when he gets to his ball that's landed like 250, 260, and just guns it out there another 30 or 40 yards. I don't believe he can fly a ball anywhere near 300 yards.
Do you have to, does it just come down to a little math? I mean, you know how far you are off the tee, so you hit it, and then you look for maybe the 150 marker, so you're able to tell. Like if you hit a drive. So he has to hit a drive in the fairway too if you're going to hit it. That's not like he might be hitting at 305, but maybe it's over, he's hitting on number 7, but it ends up, on number 5, and he thinks it's 305 yards. That's my guess.
To make it official, I just got this brand new, really nice rangefinder. We'll put it to the test with that. I have no problem walking to the ball and gunning it back to the tee box.
All right. Well, the challenge is out there for Chap, and we'll see. That'd be a nice one to have out on the road. Video challenge. Old Chapman, part of the show, gone now, and on to greener pastures. All right. Any final thoughts?
Nice win for the Tigers today, and I'm super excited for the Hall of Fame game tonight. Go Steelers.
Well, it's rolling already. I'm excited for the Hall of Fame speeches over the weekend. And if anything, let's see if Calvin Johnson really keeps it moving or what. Tom Brady gives an introductory speech for Charles Woodson. Well, who knows what's going to happen down there at Canton over the weekend. We will join you on Tuesday on the 5th chapter. Thanks, everybody, on the feedback. And for Brian Jelinek, I'm Dennis Fithian. Thanks so much for joining us here. I think I'm going to have to – oh, yeah, there it is. Good night. We'll talk with you on Tuesday.
Good night, everybody.
That'll do it for the show. Let me click off end.